Welcome back to Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and this is my review of Rogue Sun. Rogue Sun number 1, or issue number 1, if that's your preferred nomenclature, as Walter might say in The Big Lebowski. This book is by Ryan Parrott, and the artist is Abel. Abel is a mononym. I don't know if Abel is his first, or her first, or their first name or last name. I just don't know. We got Chris O'Halloran on colors, and we have Becca Carey doing letters. And this is a brand new book. This is a brand new series from Image. I was actually in Savannah the past week or so on vacation, and I was checking out the local comic shops because actually I've never looked at the comic shops in Savannah. I tried to do that whenever I visit a new place, but actually I've been to Savannah plenty of times, but I just never thought to look for comics. So this time I said, you know what, I'm going to make a point of looking into some comic shops. And I picked this one up at Odin and Sons. And then I also subsequently went to another comic shop called Neighborhood Comics and picked up another copy of it. So I've got 2 copies of it because I always think that you should probably get 2 copies of an issue number 1 if you like the book, for sure. And I do happen to like this book. One of the reasons I like it is because it's a superhero story based in a city that we don't typically get superhero stories based in. Usually it's a fictional city, or it's New York, or it's Los Angeles, or it's Chicago, or it's Detroit, but almost never do we have a major superhero story based in New Orleans. So this one's actually set in New Orleans, Louisiana, and you've got this character who's like some kind of flaming knight, but his name is Rogue Sun. And this issue doesn't really deal with, an origin story of the character per se, but you'll see what I mean when you read it. The art is solid. It's not super exciting. It's not, mind-blowing. I mean, I think you could probably get a little bit more detail back here, but it gets the point across. And one of the things that stood out to me about this book is that it's a great example of how you do an introduction to a story. So you don't normally get really good books these days, in my opinion, where you have a solid run up to an introduction of her character. This one actually kind of starts off with, Rogue Sun actually in a fight with some character that you don't really know anything about. And he seems to get beat up, and then it appears that he is seriously injured, but it doesn't look like he's dead or anything like that, before it switches off to a different aspect of the story, and it kind of comes around full circle with a really killer last page cliffhanger. So I really love books like that. I thought that this book was going to go a certain kind of way, but it turned that or kind of around on its head for me. And, I really enjoyed that. There's not a lot of times that you see a writer who has a really good understanding of what he wants to do with the story. But Parrott here, and I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. I mean, it might be Perot. If this particular individual is from New Orleans, he may pronounce his name Perot. I'm not entirely certain. However, Parrott, I'm just going to go with Parrott because, I was hooked on phonics, has a really good command of the story and really gives you not what you're looking for, but a really good twist anyway. So it's a great book. I highly recommend picking it up. I know it's been out for a couple of weeks, but this is the first time I saw it in the store. When I went to Odin and Sons, there was a gentleman named Derek who was the clerk there, and I asked him, hey, so what do you like to read? Because he was friendly and walked up and said, hey, what's up? And I said, yeah, I'm just looking around. What do you like to read? And he immediately dives into all this horror stuff because he's a big horror fan. And if you don't know, I'm not a horror fan. I don't like horror movies. I don't like horror comics. It's not my thing. So after all of that stuff, he said, so what do you think? I said, well, horror is not my thing, after he gave me like 5 different recommendations for horror books, which is funny. But then he did point out Rogue Sun. And I'll tell you what, it's a great book. It really is a solid book. And when we're kind of looking for, fresh hero stories, one of the things that I always complain about, I see these, major IPs kind of being subjugated to the writer's personal social agenda or political agenda. And, and I always say, look, if you want to have your personal, agenda, or your personal, belief system, expounded upon, or, held up triumphantly by a character, just make a new character.
And consequently, we always get I tend to get the response back, oh, well, that's too hard, but and by the way, this book doesn't have any agendas that at least I can see, and I've always got my, radar out for that. This is just a solid comic book story. I appreciate that. They're so rare these days. But this is just a straight up, no fuss, no muss, no alternative weird agenda going on. This is just a solid, brand spanking new entry for a new story and a new character. And that seems to be pretty rare these days. So I commend these guys for doing this. It's a wonderful book, and I highly recommend it. So it's Rogue Sun. It's issue 1. It is only $4, right? It's $4. And I can't recommend it enough. It's the first issue, and hopefully it'll be the first of many. And we'll see a fresh character and a fresh take and a fresh city. What can I say? I give it 5 stars because it's really hard to nail an intro book and get all the points that you need to cross efficiently, but they do it with this one. So it's a 5-star book in my opinion. Rogue Sun, issue 1 by Image. Get in your local comic shops. It's out right now. And again, thanks for watching Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and I'll catch you later.